In the daytime, I'm just a regular lead designer. But at night, I become Corporal Tommy Chester, Commando in the Royal Army.
So I'm sitting here with Ben Cousins from DICE, and we're going to talk about Battlefield Heroes. A few weeks ago, we were a bit shocked to find out about Battlefield Heroes. You're making a free game in the Battlefield franchise. What was the idea behind that?
It kind of came from DICE has always tried to be kind of on the cutting edge and be kind of original in the online space. We were the first people to have like 64 people in matches in Battlefield games, and also we've got this live team which updates our content. So we always kind of pride ourselves at doing kind of cutting edge and experimental things with online. And there's this business model that's been really successful in South Korea in the last few years with games like Maple Story, Kart Rider, Sudden Attack, Special Force. And these are all games which are kind of free to play for most people, but you can also buy items. And we thought, hell, why not? Let's just give this a try and see if we can make it work in the Western world.
Speaking of that, a concern from some of the fans of Battlefield has been, how do you keep the balance if you can buy upgrades and that sort of thing?
So I think the easy thing to do when you think about microtransaction items in a game like Battlefield is, people are going to be buying guns, they're going to be buying weapons. But this absolutely isn't the case. You won't be able to buy guns and buy weapons. There's two types of items which you think are going to sell well or that people are going to be interested in buying. The first one is just completely cosmetic items, like a big stupid moustache or a monocle or a golden helmet for your character. And the other one are what we call convenience items. So let's imagine that you and me are playing the game, but you're playing it every night for like 8 hours and you're building up your character really quickly. And I don't have time to play it because I've got like a job and a wife and kids. So what I can do is over the course of a weekend, I can buy an item which gives me double experience points just for the course of that weekend. So I'm still playing the game, I still have to be skilled, but it just gives me an opportunity to kind of catch up with you a little bit. And these are some of the items that do quite well in the Korean games.
Is the balance in the gameplay, is that true to the other Battlefield games?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we need to really focus on balance in the game, and some people say that the previous Battlefield games haven't been particularly balanced, but we're really focusing at the moment in the kind of latter stages of development on trying to really balance out the game and kind of make it fun for everybody. We expect 95% of the people who play this game won't spend any money at all, so we need to make the game really fun for them, as well as the 5% that maybe are buying items as well.
It must be a challenge to sort of try to predict how many people will play this game, because obviously the infrastructure needs to be there. I mean, what if 20 million people starts playing it from like day one?
Yeah, so I mean, we obviously look at things like what's the global online gaming audience in the countries that we think we're going to be launching in, and we have to kind of divide those up and assume which of those are shooter fans, and then you just kind of build in contingency, and we expect there'll be several million people playing this, within the first year of it going on board. So we have to be pretty careful to get an infrastructure in place, but at the same time, failing because there's too many people wanting to play your game is pretty cool anyway. So we're not that worried.
So what's the business model like for this game?
So we've got two main ways of making revenue for the game. The first one is advertising. So we have advertising in the game's website. You have to go to the website to launch the game, and that's where you download the game and where all the forums and your friends list is. So that's in the website. And there's also advertising in the game's menus. The game's menus are kind of like websites anyway, so it doesn't feel too intrusive. But one thing that we don't think we're going to be doing is having billboards or posters advertising things in the game, fictional game world itself. Firstly, because we think it would break the fiction of the game world, and also because we think that advertisers probably wouldn't be interested in creating a 1930s cartoon-style version of their adverts. I just don't think that they would have time to do that. So that's the main reason. Speaking
of the art style, why did you choose to go with this style?
So I guess there's three main reasons. The first one is that we're targeting a really low minimum spec. So a 1 gigahertz CPU, 512 megabytes of RAM, and an integrated graphics card, and you'll be able to play the game. Now, if you're running at low detail and you've got a realistic graphics style, the textures don't look so good. But if you do it with a cartoony graphic style, like a SNES game with cartoony graphics still looks good today. So we want to get the game to look good on low-spec machines. The second reason is we wanted to communicate this kind of fun, crazy, unrealistic world, and it's much easier to do that with a cartoony graphic style. And the third reason is because the team really believed in it and they were passionate about creating this game. And, the alternative for us would be to make just another dreary, realistic World War II game, which I think everyone's a bit fed up of by now.
So if we disregard the fact that it's a free game that everyone should try, what other things would you say are specific for the game and makes it stand out compared to other multiplayer shooting experiences?
So it's really easy to get into the game. We matchmake you automatically into a game. There's no sifting through a server browser. And once you're in the game, it's really easy to understand what's happening. When you die, you respawn in 5 seconds. There's no kind of waiting around. You don't need to pick a spawn point. You don't need to. There's lots of interactions which people are kind of used to in online games, which we've found you don't actually need. So it's pick up and play. You get into the game fast, and then when you're in the game, it's really good fun. Everything's easy to understand, and the weapons are really fun to use. And we've focused very much on creating a fun experience, and not worried about being realistic or kind of historically accurate.
I mean, I'm considering that this game is probably going to get banned from Swedish school because Battlefield is so popular, and if you can just log onto the website and play the game, that's going to be a major thing. How is that also a concern of yours, that you want to make a Battlefield where younger people can play as well? Because maybe the age ratings have been a little bit too high, preventing people from playing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's an audience out there which would love our core gameplay of, like you jump out of a plane, you hit the parachute, you land in a tank, then you're in the tank and you're killing like the kind of crazy, unrealistic flow of the game. I think that core gameplay could appeal to any age group or any kind of person. But I think there's guys, maybe like 10 to 15-year-old guys, they haven't got a high-end PC, they can't afford an Xbox, so they don't really have access to this gameplay. So this is one way of us kind of getting those guys involved with the game at an early age, and maybe they'll become loyal Battlefield consumers as they get older.
So how did this project start? Like, who came up with the idea to make a free Battlefield?
I think it was Sean Decker, who's the Battlefield franchise executive producer at the time, and he kind of called me into his office one day and said, hey, there's these games doing really well out in Korea and they're kind of free to play. Let's maybe just try that in the West. And you don't throw 50 people on the project immediately, but we went through like a concepting phase, and we kind of started to realize with some market research that there was an opportunity for us in this market. And it seems like a completely crazy new direction for the franchise, but we've worked quite carefully to make sure that we feel like we're doing the right thing.
So when can we get to try this game and play it?
So people all night have been asking me, when's the release date? And this sort of game doesn't have a release date. So we'll have a closed beta and there'll be a few thousand people in that, and then we'll get more and more and more. So maybe there'll be tens of thousands of people in the closed beta. And then we'll have an open beta, which will be completely open, and there'll be hundreds of thousands of people playing. And then we'll start selling items. And like from a financial point of view, the release is when we start selling items. But for a lot of gamers, it will be when we're in closed beta. So the release will be taking place over maybe 6 months, and it will probably be the sort of second half of this year that we're talking about releasing this.
So a lucky few will be able to start playing it this summer.
Yeah, I think you'll be starting to play it this summer, yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.